Tonight, you're probably going to eat without thinking about where your food came from. It feels normal, obvious even. But the real answer is far stranger. Some researchers argue that the greatest turning point in human history was also one of our greatest mistakes. For nearly all of your species' existence, your ancestors did not farm. They hunted, they gathered, they moved with the seasons. They knew hundreds of plants, tracked animals across enormous landscapes, and survived without cities, kings, or fields of grain. Then, around 12,000 years ago, everything changed. At first, farming looked like a miracle. Seeds became crops. Villages became towns. Towns became civilizations. Population exploded. Writing, governments, monuments, and empires followed. But beneath that success was a hidden cost. Archaeologists noticed something surprising when they compared early farmers with the hunter-gatherers who came before them. The first farmers were often shorter. They suffered more tooth decay. Their bones carried signs of harder physical labor. Living close together also allowed diseases to spread in ways that had been nearly impossible before. Why would a lifestyle that built civilization make individual lives harder? This question fascinated researchers like Jared Diamond, who famously described agriculture as the worst mistake in the history of the human race. His argument wasn't that farming was useless, it was that it traded individual well-being for population growth and complexity. Imagine gathering wild foods from dozens of different plants and animals. Now imagine eating mostly wheat, rice, or corn. Farming produced more calories but often less variety. Entire communities became dependent on a handful of crops. When harvests failed, famine followed. Ownership also changed everything. Hunter-gatherer groups certainly experienced conflict, but farming introduced permanent land, stored wealth, and inheritance on an entirely new scale. Suddenly, there was something to defend, something to steal, and something to pass to future generations. As settlements grew, leaders emerged. Rules became laws. Taxes appeared. Armies formed. Civilization expanded because farming could support specialists who no longer needed to grow their own food. You gained architects, you gained scribes, you gained scientists, but you also gained inequality. Anthropologist James C. Scott argued that the earliest states depended heavily on grain because grain could be counted, taxed, stored, and controlled. Agriculture did not simply feed civilization, it made centralized governments possible. And yet, without agriculture, there would likely be no modern medicine, no universities, no internet, and perhaps no way for you to hear this story today. So was farming really a mistake? Perhaps that's the wrong question. History is rarely about good versus bad. More often, it is about trade-offs. Yuval Noah Harari has argued that wheat domesticated humans as much as humans domesticated wheat. Instead of controlling crops, entire societies reorganized themselves around protecting and producing them. That idea sounds strange until you look around. Your calendar follows harvest traditions. Many holidays trace back to agricultural seasons. Cities still depend on invisible rivers of food flowing in every day. Even your work schedule carries echoes of decisions made thousands of years ago. The story of agriculture is really the story of exchanging freedom for stability, mobility for permanence, uncertainty for predictability. Neither side won completely. Your ancestors survived because they adapted. Farming was one adaptation among many. It created extraordinary possibilities while introducing extraordinary challenges. Today, scientists continue to debate exactly how difficult early farming life was. New discoveries constantly refine the picture, but one thing remains remarkably clear. The world you live in began when a few people decided to plant seeds instead of simply searching for them. So, was agriculture humanity's biggest mistake? Maybe. Or maybe it was humanity's biggest gamble, because every city, every nation, every invention, and every meal you have ever eaten can be traced back to that single decision. Tonight, when you sit down for dinner, you'll probably never think about the first field. But that forgotten field may still be shaping every part of your life.